Salvatore Ochoa was written and produced by Robert Marcos. My name is Calvin Harris. I'm a psychologist with a private practice. I also spend 1 day a week working for the county at the jail in San Bernardino, California. Good morning. Are you Salvatore Ochoa?
Yes.
Please have a seat. Mr. Ochoa, I'm Dr. Harris. I'm a psychologist, and it's my job to determine if you're competent to stand trial. Being competent means that you understand the charges the county has filed against you. You're able to communicate with your attorney, and that you can understand the penalties if you're found to be guilty. Do you understand all of that?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Ochoa, you've been charged with torture. According to California's Penal Code 206, torture is defined as intentionally causing serious bodily injury. The prosecutor will try to prove that you, 1, intentionally set out to torture someone else, 2, that you carried out that torture and caused them grave injury, and 3, that you did this for reasons such as revenge, extortion, or for sadistic purposes. Do you understand that?
Yes.
If the court finds you guilty of violating Penal Code 206, you'll most likely be sentenced to life imprisonment in a California state prison.
I understand, Doctor.
All right. Now that we've covered the charges and the possible penalty, I'd like to speak to you more personally. Are you a sadist, Mr. Ochoa?
That depends on your definition of sadist.
A sadist is a person who derives pleasure, often sexual, from inflicting pain or humiliation upon others.
In that case, no, I am not a sadist.
So then, revenge, extortion?
No, none of those apply to me or to what I did.
The arresting officers observed you leading a religious group of some sort in a county park. You were arrested after they saw you pouring a hot, possibly boiling liquid over a boy's head. Why in the world would you do that?
It was a rite of passage.
With boiling liquid?
In our custom, yes.
Is this some kind of voodoo?
No, not voodoo. Pagan would be a better description.
Tell me more about this religion of yours.
My father and mother came from West Africa. My father was the shaman of our tribe. He was famous. Members of other tribes, even chiefs, came to my father to be healed. But then the Portuguese came. They burned our village and brought death and destruction to our people. My mother and my father were captured and sold into slavery. Like cattle, they were marched to the coast, put on a filthy ship headed for Brazil. But their navigator died of scurvy and the ship ended up in Trinidad.
Slavery? Are you talking about your parents or your great-grandparents?
I am talking about my parents. They arrived in Trinidad in 1740, and I was born 8 years later, in 1748.
I see. Well, then, that makes you, 269 years old?
That is correct.
I would have guessed that you were about 30 years old. What's your secret?
Even though we were slaves, my parents still held a rite of passage ceremony for me on the night of my 18th birthday. But that night, something unexpected happened. As I watched the women dancing around the fire, things around me began to slow down. Everything. The dancers, the beating drums, and even the fire itself gradually came to a complete stop. It was as if everything was frozen. Suddenly something alien formed in front of me. It appeared as a vapor, without form. He empowered me with new abilities, the power of prophecy and the ability to read men's minds, and to ensure that I would lead our believers forever. He made me immortal.
That kind of story is not going to change a judge's mind when it comes to your sentencing. And you haven't explained to me why inflicting pain is a part of your young man's rite of passage.
It demonstrates that with manhood comes pain. The mental pain of leaving your family and the physical pain that comes from combat. It's far better for a man to adapt to pain early in life instead of running from it, as is the custom here.
What do you mean by that?
Your people run away from pain. They beg physicians like yourself to give them painkillers, opiates, which millions of your people are now addicted to. The result is that people no longer need to work through their pain or be counseled for their depression. They can just take a pill. Then their pain is gone, but not the disease which created it.
Okay, I guess I see your point.
You better, doctor, because very soon you'll be the one who's suffering. A month from now, your wife, Janice, will be killed. And then you will be miserable. We will meet again, you and I. And then the circumstances will be different. Very different.
A few months later, in the same room, at the same county jail.
Warden, I'm Detective Stravinsky. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. I'm going to summarize the charges the prosecutor has filed against you, and then I'll read you your rights.
Are you arresting me? What for?
Warden, the county of San Bernardino is charging you with manslaughter for the disappearance and probable death of your wife, Barbara.
But I told you everything I know about that.
Which was next to nothing. Mr. Williams, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to have a lawyer present during any questioning. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you. Warden, we'd like you to spend a few minutes speaking with the county psychologist, Dr. Harris. The prosecutor wants him to evaluate your mental health before we begin our case.
My mental health? So you think I'd file an insanity plea to avoid going to prison?
We have to be prepared for that possibility.
All right, whatever. Send him in.
Well, hello, Frank. May I call you that?
You may call me whatever you like.
Well, it seems that you're in a bit of a pickle here, Frank, and the irony is incredible.
What irony?
You're a criminologist who spent the last 25 years as a warden, running one of the state's toughest prisons, and now you're locked up. To me, that's ironic.
Yeah, whatever.
Frank, the public defender said you've not given them anything they can defend you with. No explanations, no alibi, no nothing. Do you want to go to prison?
Of course not. I told the police everything I know. Everything that I can remember about our drive back from Phoenix. but the simple truth is that I can't remember a thing. Not until I got back to our ranch in Desert Center.
But Frank, it was 197 miles from your daughter's house in Phoenix to your ranch. It should have taken you 4 hours to get home.
In fact, I've done it in under 3.
Okay, 3 hours. So why in the world did it take you 3 days?
I've asked myself the same thing. I have no idea. It's killing me, this not knowing.
Frank, I have an idea, and it might help us. I'd like to access your subconscious by putting you in a state of hypnosis. It's a simple procedure, and there's absolutely no pain. Frank, this could help us.
I'm familiar with hypnosis. Our prison psychologist used it on a few of our prisoners. It helped them. If it'll help bring back my memory, then I'm willing to give it a shot.
All right, let's get started. I'd like you to sit back and relax. Now take a few deep breaths. I want you to calm your mind and listen deeply to the sound of my voice. Listen to my voice. Listen to my voice. As you listen, you are becoming more and more relaxed. You are becoming receptive. You are receptive. You are open. Frank, you're in a state of deep relaxation. I'd like to take you back in time. We're going back to April the 20th. You and your wife are at a birthday party. It's a party for your granddaughter. You're having a nice time, but now it's late afternoon, and it's time to head home. It's time to drive back to Desert Center. You and Barbara are driving onto the freeway. It's the I-10 West. You're driving your truck. Frank, I want you to tell me about that.
I am so tired. So very, very tired. Barbara, honey, wake up. Please, wake up. Barbara says to pull over. She's going to drive the truck. Up ahead, there's an exit. I'm turning off the freeway. I put the truck in park, and I'm getting out. Oh, it's so dark. It's unlike anything I have ever seen. This blackness. Barbara! Barbara! Barbara is rising. She is rising up into the air. Barbara! Barbara! Don't leave me! Don't leave me here alone! Oh my God!
A year's gone by, but the body of Barbara Williams has never been found. Now I'm at my office. It's late in the day, and I'm answering the phone because my receptionist has gone home early. Hello, this is Dr. Harris.
Dr. Harris, this is Dorothy Mahoney, the resident psychologist at Black Rock State Prison.
Yes, doctor, I've heard of you. How's everything out there, in the desert?
Well, There's been a very strange development in a case that you're involved with.
Which case is that?
The case against our warden, Frank Williams. I believe you interviewed him while he was being held at the San Bernardino County Jail.
Oh, has a new lead come up?
Yes, but it's more than just that.
What do you mean?
Doctor, some very mysterious things are going on out here. Things we can't explain. Forgive me for asking, but is there any way we can meet? In person? I'd like to get your impression of the crime scene. Is there any way you can meet me out there, tonight?
Of course. I was just about to leave the office. Let me just grab my things.
Thank you, Doctor. Bring a jacket and a flashlight. We'll have to walk quite away from the car.
Sure. I'll grab my gear and call you from the car.
Thanks for coming all the way out here, Doctor. I'm so sorry for the short notice.
I'm always happy to help a fellow psychologist. Plus, you said there's been a big break in the warden's case. What sort of break?
A year ago, Warden Williams was charged with manslaughter for the disappearance of his wife, Barbara. She'd been diagnosed with early-onset dementia, and when the couple got home from their granddaughter's birthday party in Phoenix, Barbara wasn't with him. The prosecution and pretty much everybody else assumed that he killed her and buried her body somewhere out in the desert on his way home.
Yes, that's what I assumed as well. Right up until I put him under hypnosis. Then that confused things somewhat.
I read your report. What the warden said under hypnosis cast a very strange light over the whole case. But you know that kind of evidence is inadmissible in court. However, the prosecutor eventually dropped the charges due to lack of physical evidence. In other words, the lack of a body.
But now you have something. A break of some kind.
Yes. We found the body.
Oh? Who found it? And where?
This is where things get strange. There's an inmate serving a life sentence at my prison. His name is Salvatore Ochoa, but all the inmates call him the shaman.
Yes, I know him. I had several sessions with him right after he was arrested the first time. It was my finding that got him committed. But what's all this got to do with the shaman?
He told us where we would find Barbara Wilson's body.
How could he have known that if he's locked up in prison?
He wasn't just locked up. He was in solitary confinement. Ochoa's a psychic. He correctly predicted the deaths of 6 of his fellow inmates, right down to the minute of each inmate's death. We had to put him in solitary just to keep the other inmates from killing him.
Well, Doctor, I have an admission of my own. During a session with him a year ago, Ochoa predicted the death of my wife, Janice. She was killed. It was an auto accident.
Oh my God. I am so sorry.
So am I. So am I.
Doctor, let's head on out to the crime scene. It's about a mile across those sand dunes.
Oh my God! I had no idea it was so difficult to walk across smooth sand.
It's not just the sand. It's also the wind. It feels like it's trying to push me away.
Look, Doctor. There's some light up ahead, near the edge of the sand dune.
That's where we're headed. Doctor, hold on a minute. I need to warn you. You're going to be shocked at what you see down there. I want you to mentally prepare yourself. Hold on, Doctor. Look way down there, where the sand dunes meet. Do you see the body?
No, I just see police, investigators, and crime scene personnel.
Let's go down closer. There. How about now? Do you see her body? Its condition?
No, I don't see her body. I just see everybody standing around in a circle. Man, this sand is killing me. I've got some in my eyes.
Doctor, that's Barbara Williams, the warden's wife. Right there, standing in the middle.
I thought you said she was dead.
She is dead.
Oh my God. But she's standing up. That's not possible. That's just not possible. Dead people don't stand. They can't stand. How?
We don't know, Doctor.
It's as though she's being supported, held up by something. I'd been deeply traumatized by what I'd seen with Dr. Mahoney, so as soon as I could, I drove out to the Black Rock State Prison to seek answers from the man who had predicted my wife's death, Salvatore Ochoa.
Hello, Doctor. I've been expecting you.
Hello, Mr. Ochoa. It's been a long time. How are you doing here?
I am as well as you would expect. Sitting here in the dark by myself for 23 and a half hours a day. Let's just say that I have plenty of time to think.
I suppose you know why I came.
You found Barbara Williams, the warden's wife, exactly where I said she would be.
That's correct. We have so many questions. For instance, why was her body found in the condition it was in? Why was she found standing? There's just so much that we don't understand. There's the crime scene investigators who had to struggle to pull her body down, away from whatever it was that was holding her up. There's the pathologists who examined her body and found no decomposition after being dead for almost a year. And then there's the question of how you, a man locked up in solitary confinement, knew where her body was. And finally, closer to home, I've heard that you correctly guessed the date and time of death for 6 of your fellow inmates. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. All of these situations must be distressing for you and your colleagues. People who live by a rational philosophy based on facts and hard science.
That would be an understatement.
Well, I must say there's rich irony here. You're asking me, a man you characterize as being insane, for help in understanding supernatural phenomena. I'm going to answer your questions, Doctor. But before I do, I'd like to impress upon you the amount of difficulty I've gone to bring you here.
What are you talking about?
I began planning this day over 2 years ago. I allowed myself to be arrested while performing that ceremony. That arrest resulted in a life sentence. A life spent here.
Wait. You're saying that you knew you'd be arrested and prosecuted, and you went ahead anyway, knowing that you'd end up in prison, in this prison?
That's correct.
Why would you possibly do that?
I needed to see if you were the man I needed. A man I could trust.
But why would you trust me? I'm the guy who had you committed in the first place.
That's precisely why I trust you, Doctor. You're a man of integrity. You examined me in your office 2 years ago. You used established psychological methods to evaluate me. And those methods indicated that I was insane.
So was I wrong? Did I come to the wrong conclusion?
No, you did not. I have not been myself. Not for a long time.
And so you brought me here. You brought me here to treat you?
That's correct. I need psychological counseling. I need a shrink to get inside my head and tell me what's wrong with me. So I'm going to offer you a deal. I will answer your questions, all of your questions, if you'll help me. I need to find a reason to live, to rediscover my purpose, to bring new meaning to my life. I ask you, what good is it being immortal if you have no reason to continue living?
Okay, here's the deal. I'll come here once a month. I will ask that you share everything with me. I need to get inside your head to understand how you perceive the world around you. And in return, you will advise me in the world of the supernatural, the psychic powers you appear to have. I admit, I didn't believe in any of that before, but now I've opened myself to the possibility that they exist in a few unique individuals.
Barbara Williams, the warden's wife. Barbara Williams was an innocent woman who was abducted by a demon. When he was alive, this demon was like myself, a high priest. But this priest practiced black magic. His name was Euclid Jackson. Euclid was also an inmate here. He was on death row for 25 years. Then, just a week before his scheduled execution, he took his own life. They still don't know how because, as you know, the guards are very careful about that. They are the only ones who can put convicts to death, and Euclid robbed them of that. But by killing himself in the way he did, in an ancient manner known only to the high priests, he elevated himself into a demon, and he is an angry demon. I know this because I have seen him often, right here, inside this very cell. And so it was this demon Euclid who took Barbara Williams late that night from the side of the highway. And it is Euclid who is keeping her now in a state of suspended animation. As you may have heard, Doctor, revenge is a dish best served cold. And it's revenge that Euclid is serving to Barbara's husband, our beloved warden. You see, it was the warden who denied Euclid his second trial, a trial which would have freed him. Yes, that's right. Euclid was an innocent man, just as Barbara Williams was innocent. But there are more deaths to come. More than the 6 convicts he has killed already. Yes, Doctor. It was the demon Euclid who told me which men he would kill and when he would kill them. Thanks to Euclid, this place is now cursed. This demon will not stop his killing until he has ruined this place. I have seen it, Doctor. I have seen this prison abandoned. I alone shall walk out of here. I have seen it.
Hello? For God's sake, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Who is this?
I am Euclid. Beware of him. He is lying to you. He will kill you. You must not trust him. Ochoa is the devil. So beware, Doctor. Beware.
Hello, Debbie. Oh, God, what a night. Could you bring me some coffee? Good morning. This is Dr. Harris.
Dr. Harris? Calvin Harris?
Yes, that's right.
Doctor, this is Jack Jeffries. I'm the acting warden at Black Rock State Prison near Blythe.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Today, well, not so good. We've had an escape, and that's something that's never happened here before. Doctor, I'm calling because our records indicate that you were the last person who saw him.
Which inmate are you referring to?
Salvatore Ochoa. He was serving a life sentence in the psychiatric ward.
Ochoa escaped? How was that possible? He was in isolation. He was locked up underground behind bars. There weren't even windows. How could he possibly escape?
I wish I knew, Doctor. Ochoa is a dangerous man with an unusual skill set. I've not worked at Black Rock very long, but I've already heard some very disturbing stories about him. You were his psychologist, were you not?
Yes, I was. I've been treating him for over a year.
I know your conversations are confidential, but was there anything he said that would help us find him? Did he mention any plans to you, ever?
No, he did not. Our conversations were more concerned with his behavior, his lack of purpose. Not at all the normal kind of topics I have with convicts.
How do you mean?
Convicts share a common profile. They don't accept responsibility for their predicament, meaning that there's always someone else they blame for putting them in prison. But that was not the case with Ochoa. Ochoa said he claimed that he had gone to prison on purpose, so that he could have time to work through his issues, to find new meaning, and to discover a new sense of purpose for himself. In fact, he told me that he'd spent 2 years planning for it, planning for the day I would come to his cell to begin working with him.
So he went to prison voluntarily. That's crazy, but it's consistent with other stories I've heard. Things he predicted that have come true. Do you know that more than a dozen inmates have died here in the last 12 months? Every one of them by accident.
Ochoa told me a tale. I'd rather not talk about it over the telephone, but he said there'd be many more deaths at your facility. He said these deaths would continue until your prison was shut down. He said he'd seen it abandoned.
Well, Doctor, that tale is already coming true. Members of the California State Prison Authority were here all week. They've decided to close this prison. Not just the psych ward. The entire prison. Inmates are already being transported to other prisons as we speak.
But not Ochoa.
No, not Ochoa.
Warden, would you call me if you learn anything? I'm a little shaken up. It's been a strange day here, and I'm a bit paranoid about all of this.
Sure, Doctor. I'll keep you in the loop.
What a crazy day. It's good to be home.
Hello, Doctor.
Oh my God! Ochoa! What are you doing in my house?
It's safer for me here. This is the last place the police would think to look for me.
What do you want from me?
Sit down, Doctor. Make yourself comfortable. It's going to be an interesting evening. One that you're never going to forget. Think back to our first meeting at the prison. Do you remember the deal we made? You were going to treat me to help me regain my mental health. And you did, Doctor. In exchange, I was to instruct you about the supernatural. I'm here to do just that.
Really, Mr. Ochoa? There's no need. I'm perfectly fine as I am.
Nonsense. During our many sessions in prison, I looked into your mind. You said to yourself, "There is nothing supernatural here. I do not see it. I do not hear it. I do not taste it. I do not smell it. And I do not feel it." And there's a simple reason for this, Doctor. We're not designed to perceive of things occurring outside of these five senses. One might ask, could my perceptive abilities be expanded? Is my brain capable of such an expansion? The answer, Doctor, is yes. And so today is going to be your lucky day. Today you will, for the first time, experience the supernatural. It's your own mental walls that have prevented you from experiencing these things. Things which have surrounded you your entire life. Did you know that your grandmother, Helen, has been hovering near you since the day she died? She is your guardian angel, so to speak. She's here now, standing right over there. Hello, Helen. I have quite an experience planned for you, Doctor, and it's going to be an experience that you'll never forget. Afterward, you will never again question the existence of the supernatural. You will believe, Doctor, and you'll incorporate these beliefs into your practice. And as an added bonus, I'm going to leave you with one of these extrasensory perceptions permanently. You'll have a sixth sense.
Really, Ochoa, we don't need to do this. I'm good. Perfectly good.
We made a deal, and I'm going to complete my end of it.
took me a month to recover from that terrifying night with Salvatore Ochoa. Then, just days after I'd returned to work, the FBI picked me up and interrogated me.
All right, Doctor. That winds up your history with Salvatore Ochoa. Now we'd like to know more about the night he broke into your house just over a month ago.
I'd had a long day and I was tired. I pulled into the garage, closed the door. When I came into the house, Ochoa was standing in the living room. I was terrified. He told me not to worry and to sit down and relax. He said he was there to complete his end of the deal.
What did he mean by that?
A year ago, the psychologist at BlackRock called and asked me to drive out there. She wanted me to meet with Ochoa in order to find out how he knew where the body of the warden's wife was. I told him I'd counsel him if he taught me what he knew about the supernatural. That was our deal.
What happened next?
Well, I was seated on the sofa, and Ochoa was standing, facing me. He took several deep breaths and raised his face towards the ceiling. He began moving his arms in slow, circular motion. When he did, I felt something. A shift. It was like the feeling you have after taking MDMA. You experience time kind of stretching out. Everything around us came to a complete stop, and yet Ochoa and I were able to move about in this frozen world. In this moment, this very private, shared moment, he said,
Those many long nights in prison, I spent them praying to the one who made me. I begged him for a new mission. And then, finally, he came. His amorphous vapor entered my cell. Then he manifested in me new powers and an awesome new purpose: to save humanity from itself. I and I alone must reduce the human population to a sustainable level, a level at which their existence won't destroy this planet and the millions of other species which depend on it. And he gave me a method with which to accomplish this goal. Tonight, Doctor, we'll make the first use of this method, and you will experience something of the supernatural.
Then what happened?
Then he lifted us up and out of the house. I can't say whether we were in our bodies or out of them, but I can tell you that I was fully conscious, fully present. This was not a dream. We moved through the sky together, east, until we reached the prison.
You're referring to BlackRock State Prison?
Yes, it was at this point that I felt, no, I knew, that something terrible was going to happen. And then, one by one, we entered the cells. The inmates were inanimate, frozen in time, and they never saw us. But I remember that smell, that prison smell. The smell of angry men, of sweat and urine. We entered the cells one after another. Ochoa would look at the inmate, focus on a blood vessel in the back of their heads, and then, like a laser, he forced the blood vessel to rupture. The inmates died of cerebral aneurysms. Every one of them.
Okay, Doctor. So if I'm correct, you're saying that Ochoa, an escaped convict, broke into your house and then magically transported you to a prison where you witnessed him killing 925 inmates using some kind of psychic laser beam?
I told you everything I experienced. I don't care if you believe it or not. but I wouldn't be here right now if you had a better explanation. Isn't that right, Agent?
So what happened after the two of you killed the inmates?
I was brought there against my will. I didn't kill anyone. I don't remember anything about the trip back. I only know that I woke up in the same place on the sofa. I felt like I'd taken a nap, but when I remembered what happened, I couldn't eat or sleep for days, and it was weeks before I was able to return to work.
Doctor, did you report this experience to anyone?
You mean like the police? Oh, yeah, I can imagine that conversation. Officer, I was abducted by a supernatural being and forced to kill 925 convicts.
What about a friend, or another psychologist? Is there anyone at all who could corroborate your story?
No, there's only one person. Salvatore Ochoa.
Yes, of course. Maybe I'll go up on the roof to see if he's flying around here somewhere.
Even though you don't believe a word of what I've said, eventually you'll be forced to. Your trusted crime scene investigators are going to uncover absolutely nothing. No Legionnaire's disease, no airborne virus, no food poisoning, nothing to explain how 925 men living in separate cells all died on the same day at the same time. And then I'm going to be brought back here. On June 23rd, a month from now, a technician is going to attach a polygraph to me. Another machine will provide voice stress analysis. Then for the next 8 hours, I'll be grilled by investigators from 4 federal agencies: the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the NSA, and the CIA. But I'm sorry to say that you, Agent Fuller, you won't be there. You'll be working on a new case up in Montana. Your long, sunny days in Los Angeles are coming to an end. And so is your marriage. Your wife is going to tell you tomorrow. I know, because I have seen it. Salvatore Ochoa was written and produced by Robert Marcos, and starred Michael Floyd as Dr. Harris, Hunter Green as Salvatore Ochoa, Jerome St. Jerome as the warden, Jessica Pregnolato as Dr. Mahoney, and Jesse Lowther as the detective. Copyright 2017 Robert Marcos Studios.